What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Brave, Fit, and Thriving podcast. Today's episode is going to be a very special one out there for all of my fellow festival fanatics and fellow ravers. So if you are a festival fanatic or a raver watching this live right now, feel free to post any questions or comments, and I will get to them live here while we are on the podcast today. As you can tell, I am wearing some artist swag, my meal prep jersey, and I got my woolly pashmina on because today Base Canyon Base Canyon tickets have officially dropped. Now, if you don't know Base Canyon is one of the best dubstep bass music festivals in the country, right next to Lost Lands, of course. But the thing that sets it apart from so many other festivals is that it takes place at the Gorge, which is one of the most beautiful venues in the entire country. It is a breathtaking sight, and just being on that hill, looking at the stage, seeing your favorite artist throw down and watching the sunset over the canyon is just an experience unlike any other. I'm super excited to go back this year. And yeah, so let's get into the topic of today's episode. So this is going to be about the upcoming festival season. As you know, festivals will start picking up in the next month or two. Ultra is kind of like one of those first big festivals that kicks it off officially. And, you know, a lot of times when we are getting ready for festivals, we want to make the most of our experience. And when we go to festivals, sometimes you might find that your recovery afterwards take a long time, or you just want to feel better in your own body, and meaning you have more endurance, maybe you feel more comfortable. There's a lot of different things that we're going to go through today. So if your goal is to dance longer, if you're trying to combat pain or fatigue during and after the festival, or just want to feel more confident and comfortable in your outfits, then this is the episode for you. Going to go over pre-rave prep, fitness and nutrition, building your strength and endurance for your specific style of raging, whether you are a headbanger or you love to shuffle or you just like to bounce around. We will go over some tips on training so that way you can go into the festival season feeling your strongest and ready to make the most of your experience. And we'll also go over some festival camping tips, especially when it comes to nutrition and getting ready for the day ahead. So most common struggles that a lot of festival goers tend to experience is pain and injury coming from, you know, whatever your rage style is. Injury is very prevalent, especially if you don't take care of your body beforehand. Stamina and endurance, if you tire out within the first few hours of the event and you still have like 5 or 6 more hours to go, that can really kind of suck. So we'll go over some ways to build up your endurance as well. My fellow females out there, I know this is a big one. We might deal with a lot of bloating. And when we go to events, we're wearing what basically is like a teeny tiny bikini. And if we feel bloated, it can really affect our confidence, even though the festival scene is the least judgmental. And no matter what size, shape, or how you look or how you feel, you are accepted and you can wear whatever the hell you want. But we still all have our own little inner demons that might be telling us like, oh man, I don't look too great in this. So, you know, we'll go over some ways to help alleviate bloating, some gut sensitivity, so that way you can feel a little bit better. Now, this is within reason. You know, I kind of talked about bloating yesterday, and if you have a undisclosed condition that could be triggering bloating, like IBS or endometriosis or PCOS, those would require a few different changes. But I'll just go over some of the basic tips on getting through some of the bloat, and you might be surprised about some of those, some of the triggers that could be affecting you when you go into the festivals. And then we're also going to talk about post-festival recovery. You know, if you take a long time to recover after a festival, it can kind of suck, especially if you go fairly frequently. If it takes you an entire week just to feel normal again, then it can really affect your motivation, your drive outside the festival. And, you know, that's something that we can work on as well. You know, feeling like crap afterwards doesn't always have to be the case. So we'll first go into pre-festival, pre-rave preparation. So we'll talk about nutrition first, and then we'll go into training, what best exercises you could do for your specific style of raging. So nutrition, first you have to figure out what is your goal going into which festival. Set yourself a specific goal, a specific timeline, and be reasonable. It's really common to see a lot of ravers start a diet 1 month out from a festival and it turns into a crash diet. And 9 times out of 10, they will give up, or they will go into the festival completely starved and not have any energy and then not make the most of their experience. So you want to be realistic about your timeline and you want to be generous with your timeline. Like 3 to 4 months is a really good amount of time for a fat loss phase or even a strength gaining phase. Whatever your goal is, you want to give yourself ample amount of time. If you're trying to grow your glutes a little bit, give yourself ample time. If you are trying to figure out, your specific cause of bloating, going through a process of figuring out what your trigger foods are, give yourself more time. You need time to learn your body so that way you can go into the festival and know what foods are going to respond well with your body. You know what movements you need to warm up for prior, because warming up is incredibly important if you're trying to avoid injury. And if you are trying to lose weight, again, you don't want to crash diet. You don't want to deplete your energy. You want to make sure that you are giving yourself a realistic timeline. Like 3 to 4 months is a really good timeline to start taking care of your nutrition, start taking care of your fitness. First things first, when you start off in that 3-month period, start off just figuring out what your typical diet is right now. You can make small changes to lead you in a positive direction. And that could be, starting to cut down a little bit on processed foods, especially things that might have like a lot of gluten involved or just a lot of artificial ingredients, because a lot of those can trigger bloating, can cause fatigue, make you less willing and able to want to push yourself when you're working out. And then figure out where your calories are right now. And if you are severely under eating, you would probably benefit from doing a reverse diet. If you are eating quite a lot of calories, slowly cut them down. If your goal is to lose body fat, slowly cut them down. Don't just cut half your calories out or listen to MyFitnessPal when it says you should be eating 12 to 1300 calories, or if you sign up for like a diet plan and they're telling you to eat very low calories and it's like 1,000 less than you typically were, then that's technically a crash diet. And increase your protein so that way you can recover from the workouts that we're going to mention. So you will rebuild strength going into the festival. And then if you are doing a fat loss phase, you don't want to just cut calories really quickly. And your best bet is to alternate weeks. Like 1 week, if you are in a fat loss phase, cut down 50 calories 1 week. Then the next week, just increase cardio slightly, because you do want to build up some stamina. You do want to build up some endurance for the festival. Then the following week, cut slightly, but try not to go below a certain number. Like personally for me, I don't like to take clients below 1,400 calories no matter what. If they are around that calorie range, we try to implement a reverse diet. So that way they have better nutrients in their body. It helps support their thyroid hormones, their reproductive hormones, so they have more energy and get the most benefit from the workouts. Again, we're going to go over some of the best exercises for, the headbangers and the shufflers out there here. But alternate, decrease calories, increase cardio slightly, and building that cardiovascular base, improving your recovery and giving yourself an ample timeline. Also, when it comes to working out, don't overwhelm yourself from the start. You don't need to go straight into working out 5 to 6 times a week. If you haven't been working out and you're trying to get fit and healthy for a festival, don't overwhelm yourself from the start, because you will burn out and you'll create a negative relationship with the gym and also with your own self. So start off, if you don't work out regularly, start off with 3 to 4 times a week, and kind of start off with making sure that your technique is good, making sure you have a good understanding of how to execute the exercises, and finding the cardio equipment that works well with your body. Because if you do have imbalances or if you do have certain pains, there will be certain machines that work better for you. So headbangers, when you are working out in the gym, you will want to focus on strengthening your spinal erectors, which is the smaller intrinsic muscles that are attached to your spine. Because when you're headbanging, you are going into a constant state of spinal flexion and extension. You should not be using your cervical spine too much, because that's how you develop whiplash. Of course, it's unavoidable sometimes, but you can minimize how much whiplash you give yourself by focusing on using your whole body rather than just your neck. So you want to strengthen your spinal erectors. You'll want to strengthen your glutes, because that will also help support your spine as well. and your hamstrings. Same thing there. Your entire posterior chain is extremely important when it comes to headbanging with safety. Strengthening your back and then strengthening your core as well. There was this term that popped up, I don't even remember when, it was like a few years ago, that somebody said headbanging is out, waist bending is in, or yeah, waist bending versus headbanging. And so instead of using just your neck, where you can actually give yourself brain damage if you do it too intensely, but if you use your entire body, one, you're slowing down the speed at which your brain is going to be smashing on inside of your skull. So reduce the risk of brain damage and protecting your entire spine, throughout the rest of your life. Because if you want to be headbanging for the rest of your life, like, you got to take care of your body. There's a lot of rock stars that have a lot of major injuries. And I know that I saw Sullivan King post on his Instagram that he was dealing with some back pain. Hopefully he's feeling better. But that could be a cumulative effect of a lot of, headbanging without care. So here are some exercises that can help with strengthening your spinal erectors, your glutes, and your hamstrings and your core all at once. Deadlifts. Deadlifts are a great exercise for strengthening your spinal erectors. Now, when you do deadlifts, you have to make sure you're doing it with good form. So making sure you have good form is important, but it is very different for everybody because some people might have different imbalances than others. Do your research, kind of like learn what muscles should you be engaging during a deadlift. Look up good technique videos, and you will be able to strengthen the muscles that will protect your spine as you move forward with headbanging. Glute focus hyperextensions are also really great. Again, you're strengthening your glutes and you're also developing the ability to keep certain parts of your body stable while you are going into that motion of flexion and extension. Supermans are also really great. You could progress from body weight Supermans into weighted Supermans. So those are extremely challenging, but they are great for strengthening your spinal erectors. Again, very important muscle when you are trying to protect your spine headbanging. RDLs are also really great. Again, similar kind of movement, but just less curvature of the upper body. And lat pull downs, strengthening your back muscles will also help support your cervical spine as well. Now, stretching, a lot of us focus too much on stretching when it comes to festivals. We don't really do like warm-up exercises, more so just like stretching. And while stretching is great, if you aren't warming up prior, then you aren't going to be training your body for the proper motions to protect your spine for the long term. So when you're stretching, we also focus on the wrong muscles. So a lot of us will kind of stretch the back of our neck, which is fine. If you are kind of moving your head up and down quite often as you're headbanging, yes, you will be using those muscles a lot, but we tend to forget about an important muscle called the sternocleidomastoid. And so that is the muscle that connects right from the base of your skull down to your collarbone. And so when you think about headbanging, you're moving your chin down and up. So you're still using that muscle as well, but we don't stretch that one out. And so we still will develop a lot of neck pain. So if you want to get this muscle, you want to, one, massage it, and then you want to tilt your chin back as you bring your chest down, and then tilt your chin slightly to the side. And that will stretch out your sternocleidomastoid muscle, or your CSM. You can also look up some stretches, do some quick Google searches for stretches for that muscle, but it makes a world of a difference. If you are just stretching the back of your neck, it's not going to be as much of a benefit as if you get this muscle here. Because we also, just in our daily life, that muscle tends to get shortened because we're looking down at our phone so much. So it gets super tight. And so when we combine that with the repetitive motion of up and down head, it's going to get really super tight, and it could trigger to a lot of issues, especially when you turn your head after an event. The best cardio you can do for a specific festival. So if you are going to the gorge, the best cardio you could do for yourself is either Stairmaster, because the gorge is literally all hill, or incline treadmill, speed walk, or the Stairmaster. Those two are going to be really great. If you run, you can run on an incline, but you want to train yourself to acclimate to get on incline when you are on the hill, the gorge. And then when it comes to cardio, again, you want to slowly increase your cardio. Don't overwhelm yourself from the start. If you start off with doing just 10 minutes after each workout, every other week, increase that to like 15, then 20, and then a few weeks out from your festival, start tapering it down a little bit, because you don't want to go into a festival completely exhausting yourself. And this is why it's important to give yourself a decent timeline, is you don't want to keep working super hard right up until the festival. You want to give yourself a week or two to kind of deload and recover going into the festival. I know a lot of women will train really, really hard up until the day of the festival. And unless you have like a goal that's like beyond the festival, that's your focus. If you are trying to have the most stamina endurance for the festival, give yourself time to rest and recover a bit the week before. And I don't just mean completely stop, but like take down your training volume by half, take down your cardio by about half, and the intensity down. So that way, when you go into the festival, you're refreshed, recovered, and ready to rage. Now for the shufflers out there, you're going to want to focus on strengthening your hip flexors, just like, and then also with the, anybody could do is strengthening their glutes and their hamstrings. I'm just going to say that always strengthen your glutes and hamstrings. If you're a shuffler, you'll probably want to also strengthen your quads and your obliques. Your obliques are going to be really important for those twisting motions when you are shuffling. Like when you do, I don't know the name of that movement, but it's like you put one foot in front of the other, jump back, quickly turn to the other side, same foot in front. I don't know the name terminology for shuffling moves. Honestly, I'm still a beginner with shuffling. I'll be honest. And I'd probably be more advanced now if I didn't have a hip injury from a car accident a while ago. But I'm getting back into it now, which is awesome. So this exercise I really love for strengthening the hip flexors and also just developing better lower core control. Mini band hip flexor marches. You can get a set of mini bands really cheap on Amazon. They're great for mobility exercises too, for like $10. Mini band hip flexor marches, or you can also do hip flexor marches or hip flexor exercises using kettlebells. Things like squats or leg press will also be your best friend, but squats are going to probably be better than a leg press because you want to get used to keeping your body upright as you are activating your lower body, as you are moving through the squat. Because when you are shuffling, you want to keep your torso upright as well. So the squat will help train you to keep your torso upright while you're doing a lot of crazy leg movements. Leg curls, strengthening your hamstrings, side planks, strengthening your obliques, and then wood chops. So wood chops is an exercise where you are holding either a weight or a cable or a band from the bottom side of your hip, and then you bring your arms up, lifting it up and over your other shoulder as you are twisting the top half of your body, but keeping your hips facing the wall. So that is a great oblique exercise that shufflers can really, truly benefit from. Now, when it comes to cardio for shufflers, what you want to do is focus on speed, because you are going through a lot of really fast motions. So things like running, jogging, and biking at a fast pace, but using less resistance is going to be to your benefit. Especially, same thing with if you are at a festival that has flat ground, those will also be your benefit as well. For how much cardio to do, I kind of mentioned this a second ago, but again, with cardio, you want to build up. Same thing with when you're going to the gym, build up to it so you're not going ham from the start, burning yourself out, quitting, and then 1 month out from the festival, you're like, oh shit, I'm out of shape. I need to get in shape, cram. And then you go into the festival exhausted and possibly on the verge of injury if you are also trying to like, oh my gosh, I need to diet and I only have a month for the festival, so I'm only going to eat so little. And then you go in, you're exhausted and you get hurt. Like, we don't like that. We don't want you to get hurt. We want you to make the most of your experience. I don't know about you, but if I'm paying good money to go to an event, I want to make the most of that experience. So I'm going to take care of my body well beforehand and be prepared. Okay. Don't crash diet. Don't crash exercise. Slowly build up. Give yourself that realistic timeline of preparation. Now, the next portion I'm going to go into is dealing with bloating. And then after that, I will go into festival camping tips. So a lot of women, we hyper focus on our bodies a lot, and it's unfortunate, but we feel self-conscious when we deal with bloating. And bloating sometimes is inevitable, but there are some things that you can do to alleviate some of it. Now, I talked about this a lot on my podcast yesterday. So if you want a lot of very thorough tips for bloating, feel free to watch or listen to my podcast from yesterday, but I'll give like kind of an abridged version. So first of all, especially when it comes like the week before and the days of the festival, I tend to avoid gluten products because they do break down a lot more slowly in the digestive tract and can increase risk of bloating. Now, depending on the person, some people can tolerate it. a lot better. Some people don't, but in large amounts, pretty much nobody digests gluten very well. So avoiding a lot of processed breads and processed grains can help alleviate some of that, take down some of that gluten, the processed food. Limiting certain vegetables, like I talked about certain vegetables, broccoli and cabbage, if they are undercooked, they can lead to a lot of bloating and gas. So usually the week of a festival, I will cut down on certain vegetables. Now I will still include other vegetables or fiber sources that don't trigger bloating and gas for me. But I also know specifically which foods tend to cause that. And so, again, why giving yourself a realistic timeline to get fitter and healthier into a festival is to understand your body better. And so, if you think there's a food that could be triggering bloating for you, eliminate it for a week and see if it makes a difference. If it does, that food would probably be best avoided the week of and the days of a festival. Not saying you can't ever have it, but if you do struggle with feeling self-conscious when you are struggling with bloating in a festival outfit, just eliminate that trigger food. But you don't want to just eliminate a ton of food the week of a festival. So that's why giving yourself timeline, trying one thing at a time, cutting one or two things out that could be triggering your bloating that you tend to eat frequently can provide you some benefit. Find those trigger foods prior. Don't just starve yourself the week before because you're trying to get rid of bloating. Because again, you're not going to have any energy to make the most of your experience. Would love some of those same exercise. Yeah. Oh yeah. We'll be including those. We will absolutely be including those. Johanna actually just joined us at Brave last week. I'm so excited. She actually lives near the gorge, which is freaking awesome. She is my second client that lives near the gorge. And I find that absolutely amazing. I love that. I'm so excited to see everybody. We got to have like a Brave meetup. That would be fun. But yeah, so going back to the foods that can trigger bloating, again, figuring out those trigger foods prior, adequate hydration is going to be extremely important. I used this analogy yesterday on my podcast, as I said, think of your digestive system as a water slide, and your food is this is really ridiculous, but a naked you. Like if you go on a water slide that has no water and you're trying to slide down it, like you're going to stick. But the second you add some water, you're going to be sliding. And so as gross as that sounds, you want to make sure you're drinking lots of water. Keep that water slide that is your digestive system properly lubricated so that way you can move food through easier, because when food sits and can't move, that is why you feel bloating. That's why you might feel stomach cramping. That's why you might have gas. So drinking water, getting plenty of fiber to help move that food through from sources that may not trigger your bloating. Again, you want to identify those foods over the course of time can help. And then another thing too is alcohol. So being in the festival world, we know alcohol is extremely, extremely prominent. I would say probably 80% of festival goers are drinking alcohol at some point. Some may be drinking a lot more than others. And if you tend to drink a lot of alcohol, not just at the festival, but also outside, if you are drinking a substantial amount, you are impacting your gut microbiome negatively, and it's going to prevent you from actually utilizing food as well. So you might have more nutrient deficiencies. And because that gut bacteria helps food break down better, if you don't have a good gut microbiome, that food is going to take a longer time to digest, move through, and it could potentially ferment in your small and large intestine, triggering, again, gas and bloating. So if you drink a lot of alcohol, make sure, one, you eat beforehand. I know a lot of ravers will not eat before drinking because they think it makes them hit. When I stutter, I just have to make fun of it. When you drink alcohol, eat food beforehand. I know a lot of ravers will avoid eating food before a festival because they think it will make their alcohol hit harder. And while that might be true, it also affects your gut a lot more. And especially if you're not drinking enough water, if you have a lot of alcohol in your system that is not diluted and it is directly hitting your small and large intestine, you are killing off good bacteria, and that's going to trigger a lot of bloating. So you might feel fine the next day after drinking, but it's the next time you eat, you're going to notice a lot more bloating. So drink your water a lot with alcohol if you are drinking. drink in moderation, and eat food beforehand. Eat food beforehand. You want to dilute that alcohol concentration if you want to alleviate your bloating. You want to make sure you're eating at a festival. You don't want to just survive off one chicken tendy. I actually made a reel about this the other week. You need more than a chicken tendy to have energy. And I know that it's mostly a joke, but I swear there are some people that take the fact that they could go 3 days straight without eating as like a badge of honor. And it's honestly just kind of stupid. It's honestly moronic. Like, you need food. You want to dance all night. You want to rage. You want to catch set after set where it's like top artist after top artist after top artist, and you just want to be go, 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 but your body shuts down on you. Like, where's the fun in that? Where's the fun in that? You need to eat. You need to eat. Arguably, you need to eat more during a festival than you do outside of a festival. Unless you're like training for marathons outside of the festival, you need more calories and you need more food. You need to have more food in your system so that way you can make the most of your experience. Because, like, come on, we pay hundreds of dollars to go see these artists. I want to dance my ass off. Don't you? So again, with bloating, you can identify the triggers. You want to identify them long beforehand. You want to cut down on alcohol, drink safely in moderation. Try it on the week before the festival, cut down on gluten or cut out gluten. I don't like to say you can't have any type of foods, but gluten tends to be the biggest trigger for bloating. So the week prior and the days of, try to avoid it. When you go to the festival, when you're trying to find food to eat at a festival, honestly, rice and protein dishes are going to be your best bet. A lot of them, though, they do have some vegetables mixed in that can be causes a bloat. Personally, for me, I will go get like a chicken and rice bowl, and I will kind of pick out some of the vegetables that might be triggers for my bloating, like cabbage and broccoli. I avoid before and during a festival just because I know that those could potentially cause a lot of bloating if they're not cooked properly. And I don't trust the vendors to know how to cook my vegetables the way that my body can process. So rice and protein are really, really great carbohydrate and protein sources. Or rice is probably one of the best carbohydrates to have from a vendor at a festival. Less likely cause a bloating. Now, things like noodles, those will potentially cause bloating because they will be high in gluten. They'll also be extremely, extremely high in sodium, which isn't bad. You know, if you're at a hot festival and you're sweating your ass off, like, you need sodium. But if you are getting sodium from like a lot of other sources and your body is not adapted to it, then that also can trigger some bloating. So just be aware of those foods when you are going to vendors. Smoothies also work really well. Things like pizza can also trigger bloating. Again, it's the gluten. So rice and protein vendors are going to be your best bet for food, or potatoes. Potatoes also break down a lot easier than gluten. So we're going to go into camping festival tips now. And with camping, it's a little bit tricky to follow some of those tips. Now, if you are with a squad and you're lucky enough to have like a camping stove and a really cool setup, you can have like a day or two where you're eating normal meals. And again, things like rice, things like potatoes, meats are really good. Oatmeal is a really great one to have. And oatmeal you can actually have warm or cold. If you run out of food from your cooler, you know, those first 2 days, things are still a little fresh, but after that, you know, then it's a little sketchy. These are some foods that I like to go to when we don't have the ability to make like fresh, you know, almost regular style meals. Tuna packets are great. I love tuna packets, or the chicken packets. You could bring those into the festival and they will supply you a lot of protein. Some of them come in really, really good flavors. And I will take in the tuna packets and some rice cakes and make them as like, I'll just have tuna on top of the rice cake because the rice cake will digest easier for me. And it gives me some good carbohydrates and I'll snack on those throughout the festival. Easy digest milkshakes or protein shakes. I like Orgain because they use stevia to sweeten, so that I know it's easier on my stomach. My body does not break down sugar alcohols too well, so I have to be super cautious. And I will take that and I will mix that with my coffee. I usually get cold brew coffee and mix it with protein in the morning after I have breakfast because 1, energy, 2, gives me protein. You can also make overnight oatmeal. So if you get like a little mason jar or a little Tupperware container. You can put some oatmeal in there. You can maybe put some chia seed in there for a little extra fiber. Again, you don't want to completely avoid fiber on festival weekends. You just want to be cautious about your sources. And then mix that with almond milk because you don't want to use regular milk. And that's because, again, if you're camping, odds are you can't control the temperature of the cooler too well. So I don't like to risk it. I will usually just use almond milk on a festival weekend. And for some people, they might be sensitive to dairy. So dairy could be another thing to cut down or limit the week of and the days of the festival. PB&J with rice cakes is really good. Again, I try to avoid much bread the week of a festival because of the gluten. It could potentially cause bloating. So I will make PB&J with rice cakes. And RX bars, if you're looking for a good protein bar, RX bars are the best that you can have. If you are going for a lot of protein bars, honestly, a vast majority of protein bars cause a lot of bloating because of the type of fiber that they put in there to bump up the fiber content and the type of artificial sweeteners that they use. Most protein bars will cause bloating. So I always look for a protein bar that has all natural ingredients where I can pronounce every single ingredient and I know exactly what each ingredient is. If it has something like, I don't have it on me, so I know Quest bars. Quest bars tend to cause a lot of bloating. Atkins bars cause a lot of bloating. Power bars. Power Crunch bars are different. I love Power Crunch bars. Those are another one that I also go to because that one is also sweetened with stevia. It doesn't use any artificial sugar alcohols included. So that's another one that I really like to go for when I'm at a camping festival. Always scope out the vendors and see what is available. Because if you can kind of do your research beforehand on what food is available and what food do you think is going to process better in your body, again, identifying those trigger foods the months prior to a festival is going to work to your benefit when you are at the festival, when you are looking at the vendors. And this is also why a lot of people avoid eating at festivals is because they're so afraid that the food that they eat from the vendor is going to cause their bloating. But if you learn your body beforehand, again, setting that realistic timeline, you can make better decisions on what to eat when you are at the festival and, again, avoid feeling too bloated. Now, if you are about to start your period, there's only so much you can do. Drinking water and fiber, again, is important. I go over all of the bloating on my podcast yesterday. So if you want to help reduce your chances of feeling extra bloated in your outfits, go ahead and check that one out. But ultimately, water and fiber are your best friends, learning your trigger foods. And yeah. And then the last tip, especially, even if you're camping or you're staying at a hotel, warm up before the festival. Again, do some of the stretches that we mentioned and do some mobility exercises. So things like cat to cows are really great. Dr. Rockbacks or frog stretches. Doing some warm up mobility exercises. The Supermans are great warm ups, especially for headbangers. If you are a shuffler, bring some mini bands with you. I bring mini bands with me to festivals when I'm camping, and I'll also bring a foam roller, and I will warm up each morning. That is my non-negotiable. I warm up before the festival. I know I sound like getting to be one of those old ravers. Oh, I gotta warm up and stretch. But honestly, like, it does make a difference. I rage harder now than I did when I was 18, 19, 20. And it's because I take care of my body before, during, and after. I don't binge drink anymore. I warm up, I stretch, and I do the right stretches. I do the right exercise. When I used to just stretch the back of my neck, I would still feel pain. But when I started massaging and stretching my CSM muscle after headbanging, it made a world of a difference. So those are some ones that you can try. And, if you really need some guidance, if you have a festival coming up in 3, 4, 5 months and you want some help going into it, feeling your best, feel free to reach out, ask your questions, or if you want, you could fill out my coaching waitlist form in my bio on Instagram or Facebook. I'd be more than happy to help you out because we have quite a few ravers. I have this one girl, Anissa. She's a sweetheart. She's amazing, and she joined us last year, and she was actually part of my festival fitness challenge last year. She messaged me after Groove Cruise, or no, she messaged me after a different festival. It was like a few months back. And she was saying how all of her friends noticed how much more energy she had. And she's like, I had the most fun I ever had. And she's like, I felt better afterwards. Like I didn't feel like I needed so much more time to recover. And that's the thing that's amazing about, literally kind of training yourself for festivals, because it's a marathon. It doesn't seem like it because it's super fun, but honestly, it is super taxing on your body. And think of it this way: the faster you recover after a festival, the more money you make, more festivals you can go to. So you could consider that. And the more stamina and endurance you have, more sets you can catch, more dancing, more opportunity to just have fun and have the best time of your freaking life. So get ready now. Festival season's coming up. Start today, start tomorrow. Go to the gym tomorrow. Anybody who's listening right now, go to the gym tomorrow. Go to the gym and try some of the exercises that we mentioned earlier. If you're a headbanger, do some deadlifts, do some Supermans, do some glute focused hyperextensions. If you don't know how to do those exercises, YouTube's an amazing place. The internet's an amazing place. Film yourself, make sure you're doing it right so you don't hurt yourself. Start off with low frequency and slowly increase. You can get ready now. You can get ready today, because festival season is going to smack us within it's just going to smack us fast. Like it's going to come up really fast. So get ready now. Make the most of your experience and do this for you. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope some of these tips are really helpful. If there were any tips that I did not go over that you would like me to answer, feel free to put them in the comments. I would love to answer any of your questions. And if you are going to Base Canyon, I will see you there. I'm actually trying to lead I'm going to try to apply to lead a campground activity. So fingers crossed, me and my friend Tyler, we are going to be collabing and coming up with a really good warm-up and mobility routine prior to, hopefully we could get a slot on Friday in the morning-ish, late morning, because that would be that would be ideal. But we want to lead a campground activity to help people prepare for the 3 days of bass music up ahead. Same thing with Lost Lands. I would love to do one for EDC, but I don't know who to reach out to. So if anybody knows who I can reach out to see if I can lead a camp EDC thing, I would greatly appreciate that. But it might not be until next year if I can figure out who to reach out to. But that's something that's on the bucket list, because I would love to help people make the most of their experience by priming their body and making the most of their experience. So have a great rest of your day, everybody. If you bought your Base Canyon tickets, super excited. I'll see you guys there. And comment any questions. I will answer them on Facebook. So have a good one, guys. Happy weekend.